Welcome back to Infidelity Tales Lab. We're incredibly grateful for your support. Before we begin today's tale, tell us, which city or country are you joining us from? We love connecting with our global audience. Now let's dive into today's story. Chapter 1. The Foundation Crumbles. The aroma of grilled meat permeated the backyard as Ben Manning stood near the grill, his fingers wrapped around a cold beer bottle. The condensation dripped down his calloused hands that had worked tirelessly for 20 years to build a life for his family. At 45, the history teacher's face bore the marks of dedication. Subtle lines around his eyes from grading papers late into the night, a slight furrow in his brow from the constant worry of providing for his children. Today should have been a triumph. His eldest, Ethan, had graduated high school with honors, headed to a prestigious university in the fall. The backyard bustled with guests, teachers, family friends, neighbors, all gathered to celebrate. Yet something gnawed at Ben's gut, an instinct honed by years of observing teenage behavior in his classroom. Need any help with those burgers? James Chen's voice cut through Ben's thoughts. His old college friend and business partner stood there in his tailored suit, designer watch glinting in the afternoon sun. James had always been the more sophisticated of the two, even back in their scholarship days. "I've got it handled," Ben replied, his tone measured. He'd noticed James spending more time at their house lately, claiming to need Clara's interior design expertise for his new office space. "Shouldn't you be mingling with the guests? I heard the Peterson account needs some schmoozing." James laughed, that easy charm that had always drawn people to him. "Always the practical one, Ben. Clara's handling the Petersons. You know how she is, could sell ice to an Eskimo." Ben watched his wife across the yard. Clara moved through the crowd with practiced grace, her designer dress probably costing more than his monthly salary. She'd been different lately, distant, distracted. Her interior design business had taken off, and with it, she developed new tastes, new friends, a new life that seemed increasingly separate from their family. "Dad!" Maya, his 16-year-old daughter, bounded up to the grill. "Mom wants to know if the food's ready. People are getting hungry." Ben studied his daughter's face. Maya had Clara's features, high cheekbones, almond-shaped eyes, but lately, he'd started noticing expressions that reminded him more of James. He dismissed these thoughts as paranoid, but they persisted. "Tell your mother 5 more minutes," Ben said, flipping another burger. "And Maya? Where's your brother Noah?" "Probably with Uncle James," she shrugged, already turning away. "They've been hanging out a lot lately." Ben's jaw tightened. When had James become uncle? He watched Maya weave through the crowd, joining Ethan and Noah near the pool. His 3 children huddled with James, their heads close together, sharing some private joke. Clara drifted over to join them, her hand brushing James's arm with familiar intimacy. The noise of the party faded as Ben observed the scene before him. 20 years of teaching had taught him to read body language, to spot the subtle signs of deceit. The way Clara leaned into James's space, the matching expressions on his children's faces, not love or respect, but contempt poorly disguised as teenage rebellion. Ben set down his spatula, movements deliberate. He'd grown up poor, the son of immigrants who taught him the value of patience, of watching, of waiting for the right moment. He learned early that revenge served cold tasted sweeter. A burst of laughter drew his attention. Clara had her hand on James's chest, her face tilted up to his. The gesture was intimate, too intimate for old friends. Then he heard it, carried on the breeze. "Remember how we fooled him about the fertility treatments?" Clara's voice, usually honeyed and smooth, dripped with malice. "All 3 are your little angels, and this idiot just paid for their private school and college." Ethan's response struck like a physical blow. "Dad gave us better genes anyway. James is our real father." The other 2 nodded, snickering. Ben's hands remained steady as he switched off the grill. 2 decades of marriage, 3 children he'd loved since birth, countless sacrifices, all built on lies. The rage that filled him wasn't hot. It was ice cold, crystallizing into something darker. He walked to the outdoor stage they'd set up for speeches, each step measured. The microphone felt solid in his hand as he tapped it twice, drawing everyone's attention. "I have an announcement," Ben said, his voice carrying across the suddenly quiet yard. The party guests turned toward him, expectant smiles on their faces. His family's small group broke apart, Clara's expression shifting from annoyance to confusion. Ben met each of their gazes in turn. Clara, James, his 3 children who weren't his. He saw the moment understanding dawned in Clara's eyes, the flash of fear that crossed James's face. Good. They should be afraid. I'd like to thank everyone for coming to celebrate Ethan's graduation, Ben continued, his tone conversational. It seems we have more to celebrate than just that. He reached into his back pocket, withdrawing an envelope he'd been carrying for days. His gut instinct had led him to get the test done weeks ago. Now, as he held up the DNA results, he watched the blood drain from Clara's face. The party guests shifted uncomfortably, sensing the tension crackling in the air. Ben's smile didn't waver as he began to read. Chapter 2. The Unveiling. The DNA results felt heavy in Ben's hands as he stood before the crowd of party guests. The paper was crisp, official, each word a nail in the coffin of his marriage. I recently had some medical tests done, Ben began, his voice carrying across the dead-silent yard, including a paternity test for all 3 of my children. He paused, letting the implications sink in. Would anyone like to guess the results? Clara surged forward, her designer heels sinking into the grass. Ben, stop this right now. You're making a scene. A scene? Ben's laugh held no humor. No, Clara. A scene is what you've been putting on for the past 20 years. He turned back to the crowd. The results show that I am not the biological father of Ethan, Maya, or Noah Manning. The collective gasp from the guests satisfied something dark inside him. Ben watched Clara's perfectly made-up face crumble, saw James take an involuntary step backward. His children, no, James's children, stood frozen, their earlier smugness replaced by shock. Ben, please, James started, holding up his hands. Let's discuss this privately. Privately? Ben's voice cut through the air like a blade. Like how you privately fuck my wife. Like how you privately father my children. Like how you privately laughed at me behind my back. Several guests began edging toward the gate. Ben didn't care. Let them witness this. Let them spread the story of Clara's betrayal, of James's duplicity. Daddy, Maya stepped forward, tears streaming down her face. We didn't mean... Don't call me that. Ben's words froze her in place. I'm not your father. You made that very clear earlier. He turned to address all 3 children. You've spent years treating me with contempt, making me feel like I was never good enough. Now I understand why. Noah, his youngest at 14, began to sob. Ben felt nothing. The boy who'd once brought him handmade Father's Day cards was just another lie. As for inheritance, Ben continued, his voice carrying across the yard. I've already contacted my lawyer. Everything I own, the college funds, the trust funds, all of it has been transferred to my name only. You'll get nothing. Clara lunged forward, her composure shattering. You can't do that. We're married. Half of everything is mine. Check again, Clara. Ben's smile was razor sharp. Remember those papers you signed last month? The ones for your business expansion? You might want to read the fine print. You sign away your rights to our joint assets. James stepped forward, his lawyer's instincts kicking in. That's fraud, Ben. We can fight this. Try it, Ben challenged. I have recordings of you both admitting to the paternity fraud. I have DNA tests. I have evidence of your affairs going back years. He spread his hands. Go ahead. Take me to court. Let's make this even more public than it already is. The color drained from James's face. Clara swayed on her feet, reaching for support that wasn't there. You've always thought I was weak, Ben addressed his family. The mild-mannered teacher, the pushover dad, the trusting husband. His laugh was cold. You forgot where I came from. You forgot what I had to do to survive. He turned to the remaining party guests, who stood transfixed by the unfolding drama. Thank you all for coming. The party's over. Feel free to spread the word about why. Ben stepped down from the stage, his movements unhurried. He passed Clara, who reached for his arm. He shook her off without a glance. Ben, wait, she pleaded. We could talk about this. We can fix this. Fix this? Ben turned back, and something in his expression made her step back. There's nothing to fix, Clara. You, James, the kids, you're dead to me. All of you? He smiled, and it was not a kind expression. But don't worry, I'm not done with any of you yet. He walked through the gate, leaving behind the sounds of Clara's sobs, James's attempts at damage control, and his children's confusion. He had preparations to make. 20 years of lies wouldn't be avenged in a day. Chapter 3. The Vanishing Act. In the days following the graduation party, Ben moved with precision. The cheap motel room on the outskirts of town served as his temporary base of operations as he systematically dismantled his old life. His phone buzzed constantly with messages and calls he didn't answer. Clara's texts ranged from desperate pleas to angry threats. James left voicemails full of legal jargon and attempts at reconciliation. His children, James's children, sent tearful messages begging for forgiveness. Ben read each message, saved them all, and continued his work. The laptop screen illuminated his face as he transferred funds, closed accounts, and activated contingency plans years in the making. A knock at his door interrupted his concentration. "Who is it?" "It's Mike, you paranoid bastard." "Open up." Ben checked through the peephole before letting in his oldest friend. Mike Zhang, a computer security expert he'd known since their teenage years, looked out of place in the dingy motel room with his expensive suit and laptop bag. "You look like shit," Mike observed, setting up his equipment on the scratch table. "Good to see you too." Ben returned to his work. "Did you bring what I asked for?" Mike pulled out a stack of documents. "New identity, clean background, untraceable accounts. Tommy's working on your physical transformation plan, and Sarah's got eyes on your family." Ben nodded. His friends had rallied around him without question. They remembered the scrappy immigrant kid who'd fought his way through school, who'd helped them when they needed it. Loyalty meant something to people like them. "Clara's been busy," Mike continued, pulling up surveillance photos. "She's already talking to divorce lawyers. James is helping her, but they're hitting walls. Seems they can't access any of the accounts." "They won't," Ben said, his voice flat. "Everything's gone. 20 years of savings, investments, all of it. I've moved it where they'll never find it." Mike whistled. "Remind me never to piss you off." He paused, studying his friend. "The kids are a mess." The university withdrew Ethan's acceptance when the trust fund payment bounced. "They're not my problem anymore." Ben's fingers continued moving over the keyboard. "They made their choice long ago. You're one cold bastard, Ben Manning." Ben Manning was a fool who trusted the wrong people. He looked up, his eyes hard. "He's dead." Mike nodded slowly. "What do you need from me?" "Make me disappear." Ben turned the laptop around, showing a map. "I bought property here, under one of the shell companies. Remote, defensible, far from my old life. I need you to make sure no one can trace it back to me. Consider it done." Mike pulled out his phone. "Tommy wants to meet tomorrow. He's got some ideas about changing your appearance." "Good." Ben stood stretching. "Tell Sarah to keep watching them. I want to know move they make, person they talk to. They're scared, Ben. Clara's been crying to anyone who'll listen about how you tricked her, how you're trying to destroy her." Ben's laugh was devoid of humor. "She hasn't seen destruction yet. This is just the beginning." "What's your endgame here?" Mike asked, packing up his equipment. "Justice." Ben's voice was quiet but firm. "They took everything from me, my marriage, my children, my trust. I'm going to take everything from them. Not just money or status. I want them to feel what I felt. I want them to know what it's like to have your whole life revealed as a lie." Mike zipped up his bag, considering his friend. The passionate, idealistic teacher was gone, replaced by something harder, colder. "Need anything else?" "Just one thing." Ben handed him a sealed envelope. "Deliver this to Clara. Make sure she reads it." After Mike left, Ben returned to his work. The letter to Clara contained no threats, no accusations. Just a simple message. "You taught me how to destroy a family. Now I'll teach you how to lose everything." The next few weeks passed in a blur of preparations. Tommy, a former martial arts instructor turned private security consultant, helped Ben transform his appearance and bearing. Hours in the gym replaced his teacher's soft physique with lean muscle. His clean-shaven face disappeared behind a well-groomed beard. Contact lenses changed his eye color. Sarah, their private investigator friend, kept him updated on his family's increasing desperation. Clara's interior design business was failing as clients deserted her. James's accounting firm put him on leave pending an investigation into ethical violations Ben had anonymously reported. The children were falling apart. Ethan, denied his dream university, took a job at a fast food restaurant. Maya's private school withdrew her scholarship. Noah, the youngest, had started acting out, getting into fights at school. Ben absorbed each report without emotion. He'd loved them once, would have died for them. Now they were just targets, pieces in a game they didn't know they were playing. On his last night in the motel, Ben reviewed his plans one final time. His new identity was solid: Cole Williams, a reclusive rancher with a mysterious past. His finances were secure, hidden behind layers of shell companies and offshore accounts. His appearance was transformed enough to avoid casual recognition. He picked up his packed bag, everything else had been shipped ahead to the ranch, and took one last look around the room. Ben Manning had died here, amid cheap furniture and faded wallpaper. Cole Williams was ready to begin the next phase of his revenge. The night clerk barely glanced up as he checked out. Outside, a taxi waited to take him to the private airfield where Mike had arranged transportation. As the city lights faded behind him, Ben allowed himself a small smile. The foundation was laid. Now it was time to build something new from the ashes of his old life. Something his betrayers would never see coming until it was too late. In the darkness of the taxi's back seat, Ben pulled out his phone one last time. He had one final message to send before destroying the device. To Clara's number, he typed, "Congratulations. You've taught our children that betrayal has no consequences. I'm going to teach them how wrong you were. Enjoy your freedom while it lasts." He hit send, then dropped the phone out the window, watching in the side mirror as it shattered on the asphalt. Ahead lay a new life, a new identity, and the cold satisfaction of knowing that somewhere behind him, his message was lighting up Clara's phone, sending the first chill of real fear down her spine. The game was just beginning. Chapter 4, The Ghost of the Past. The ranch stood isolated against the Colorado mountains, its weathered buildings a testament to years of neglect. Ben, now Cole Williams, surveyed the property through narrowed eyes. The peeling paint, rotting wood, and overgrown fields represented everything he needed: a challenge, a distraction, a fortress. He ran a hand over his bearded face, fingers tracing unfamiliar contours. The past 3 months had transformed him. Gone was the soft-bodied teacher in khakis and button-downs. His body had hardened from manual labor, muscles defined by hours of training with Tommy Chin, his martial arts expert friend. "This section needs complete rebuilding," Tommy said, kicking a rotted fence post. He'd been helping Ben renovate the ranch while training him. "Your form's improving. You're picking up the techniques faster than most of my students." Ben grunted, hefting a new post into position. Rage is a good motivator. Speaking of motivation, Tommy pulled out his phone. "Sarah sent an update on your family." Ben drove the post into the ground with more force than necessary. "Tell me." Clara's interior design business is hemorrhaging clients. That graduation party video went viral. Turns out people don't like hiring designers who cheat on their husbands and lie about their kids' paternity. Tommy scrolled through the report. She's been drinking heavily, showing up late to appointments. James tried to help her land new clients, but his reputation shot too. Good. Ben straightened, wiping sweat from his brow. The children? Living with Clara. Ethan's working fast food, Maya got kicked out of private school, and Noah's getting into fights. They're all blaming you for ruining their lives. Ben's laugh held no warmth. They should have thought about consequences before spending 20 years treating me like dirt. The sound of an approaching vehicle drew their attention. A battered pickup truck pulled up, Hank Morrison at the wheel. The retired sheriff had become Ben's closest ally in town, though he knew him only as Cole. "Brought those supplies you wanted," Hank called out, climbing down from the cab. He was in his 60s, weathered face topped by steel-gray hair. "And some news you might find interesting." Ben helped unload the truck while Hank talked. Couple came through town asking questions. "Woman matching your ex-wife's description. Fancy clothes, but looking rough around the edges. Man with her trying to act smooth, but nervous as a long-tailed cat in a room full of rocking chairs." "Clara and James," Tommy muttered. "They're getting closer," Ben said, expression unchanged. "Good." Everything's ready for them. Hank studied him. You never told me the whole story, Cole, but I recognize that look. Seen it in men who've been betrayed. Men looking for justice. He patted his truck. Got my old service weapon in here if you need it. I appreciate that, Hank, but I have other plans for them. Ben's phone buzzed. A message from Mike Zhang, his tech expert. Excuse me? He walked away, reading Mike's update. The fake design company he'd created to trap Clara was ready. The accounting position for James was set up, complete with fraudulent credentials that would implicate him in financial crimes. The children would receive their chance at redemption soon. They're desperate, Mike's message read. Clara's trying to sell her jewelry. James is behind on his mortgage. Kids are fighting over the last of their trust fund money, which I've made sure will disappear once they try to access it. Ben typed back, proceed with phase 2. That evening, after Tommy and Hank left, Ben sat on his newly rebuilt porch cleaning a hunting rifle. The weapon was purely for show, part of his Cole Williams persona, but the menacing click as he reassembled it satisfied something dark inside him. His phone lit up with a series of messages from Clara. Please, Ben, we need to talk. The kids are suffering. You can't just disappear with all our money. I know you're in Colorado. He read each one, imagining her increasingly desperate state. The Clara he'd married would never have begged. She'd been too proud, too certain of her power over him. Now that power was gone, and she was learning how it felt to be helpless. Ben picked up his satellite phone, untraceable, courtesy of Mike, and dialed a number. Sarah? Follow them when they come. I want to know exactly when they arrive, where they stay, what they do, and make sure our local friends are ready to play their parts. The plan was complex, designed to isolate and break each member of his former family. Clara would be offered what looked like professional redemption, only to have her reputation destroyed even further. James would think he'd found financial salvation, then discover he'd been set up for criminal charges. The children would learn what it meant to work for something instead of having it handed to them. Ben loaded the rifle and fired at a distant target, the crack echoing across his property. He'd spent 20 years being the gentle, understanding husband and father. That man was dead, replaced by someone harder, colder, more capable of delivering the justice his family deserved. Let them come to Colorado. Let them think they could confront or manipulate him. They'd learn what happened when they pushed a good man too far. The sun set behind the mountains as Ben cleaned his weapon one final time. Tomorrow he'd continue training with Tommy, building both his body and his skills. He'd review Mike's latest digital traps and Sarah's surveillance reports. He'd chat with Hank about local gossip while secretly gathering intelligence. And soon, very soon, he'd show his former family exactly who they'd created when they betrayed him. Chapter 5, The Web Titans. The Colorado morning brought Clara's BMW winding up the mountain road, its pristine paint job marking it as distinctly out of place among the local pickup trucks. In the passenger seat, James Chun gripped the door handle as Clara took another curve too fast. Slow down, he urged. The roads here are treacherous. I'll slow down when I have my life back, Clara snapped. Her perfectly manicured nails drummed against the steering wheel. He's here somewhere. That tip about Cole Williams was solid. James wiped sweat from his forehead. Their last few months had been a nightmare of bounced checks, canceled contracts, and increasingly desperate measures to maintain appearances. Clara's drinking had gotten worse, and his own attempts to rebuild his accounting practice had failed spectacularly. Maybe we should rethink this, he suggested. If it is Ben, when I want your opinion, I'll give it to you. Clara cut him off. You're the reason we're in this mess. Your bright idea to tell the kids the truth about their paternity. You're the one who brought it up at the party. James protested. I never wanted. Shut up. Clara slammed on the brakes as a ranch came into view. A tall, bearded man was mending a fence. Something about his movements seemed familiar. That's him. I'd know those hands anywhere. She pulled into the gravel driveway, dust billowing behind the car. The man straightened slowly, watching their approach with cold detachment. Ben, Clara was out of the car before it fully stopped. We need to talk. The man's voice was rough, different from Ben's careful teacher's diction. Name's Cole Williams. You're trespassing. Drop the act. Clara advanced on him. Designer heels unsuited for the rocky ground. You think a beard and some manual labor changes who you are? I was married to you for 20 years. Lady, I don't know who you think I am, but you need to leave. His stance shifted subtly. A fighter's stance, James realized with growing unease. Ben, please. Clara reached for him. We can work this out. The kids need their father. I need my husband. Fascinating. The man's voice dripped contempt. You need money, you mean? Your designer lifestyle getting harder to maintain. So you admit you're Ben. Clara triumphantly turned to James. See? I told you. I admit nothing. The man smiled, and James felt a chill. This wasn't the Ben they'd known. This man's eyes held something dangerous. But since you're here, let's talk about choices and consequences. He moved with startling speed, catching Clara's wrist as she tried to slap him. Careful. Assault charges wouldn't help your current situation. Let me go. Clara struggled, but his grip was iron. Like you let go of our marriage vows. He released her with a shove that sent her stumbling back. Like you let go of any shred of loyalty or decency. James stepped forward. Ben, we know we hurt you. James Chun. The man's attention swung to him. The friend I trusted with my finances. The man who fucked my wife and fathered my children. Tell me, does your new accounting firm know about the creative bookkeeping you did with my tutorial business? James felt the blood drain from his face. How did you? I know everything. The man's voice remained conversational. Every affair, lie, manipulation. I know about Clara's other lovers. Yes, James, there were others. I know about the money you both embezzled. I know exactly how long you've been laughing at me behind my back. Clara's face had gone pale. You're lying? Am I? Should we discuss Thomas from your yoga class? Or Michael, your favorite contractor? Or should we talk about the offshore accounts James set up for you? Stop it. Clara's composure cracked. Fine. Yes, I cheated. Yes, we lied. You were boring, Ben. A pathetic teacher who never amounted to anything. James gave me everything you couldn't, including 3 children you tricked me into raising. The man's smile grew colder. Tell me, how are our darling offspring handling poverty? They're suffering. Clara's voice rose hysterically. Is that what you wanted? To punish innocent children? Innocent? He laughed. They knew the truth for years. Chose to treat me with contempt while spending my money. Now they're learning what life is like without Daddy's wallet. A truck appeared on the road. Local sheriff's department. The man waved it down. Officer, these people are trespassing. They seem confused about who I am. The deputy, young, stern-faced, approached. Everything all right, Mr. Williams? Just fine. These folks were leaving. No. Clara lunged forward. He's my husband. He stole our money. Ma'am. The deputy's hand moved to his weapon. I've known Cole Williams since he bought this ranch. I'm going to need you to return to your vehicle. This isn't over, Clara hissed as James dragged her back to the car. We'll prove who you are. Good luck. The man turned away, dismissing them. Deputy, would you mind escorting them off my properties? As they drove away, following the patrol car, James glanced in the rearview mirror. The man they confronted stood watching, his posture radiating cold satisfaction. That's not the Ben we knew, James said quietly. No. Clara's hands shook as she lit a cigarette. He's become something much worse. Later that evening, alone in his study, Ben reviewed the surveillance footage Sarah had planted in Clara's car. He watched their drive back to town, listened to their frantic planning. His phone buzzed, a message from Mike. Phase 2 ready. Clara's received the job offer from our fake design firm. James's accounting trap is set. Ben, type back, proceed. Make sure the children see their parents' good fortune. Let them stew in their resentment. Another message blinked on his screen. This one from Tommy. Security systems upgraded. No one gets near the ranch without us knowing. Piece by piece, his web was tightening. Soon they'd all learn the true cost of betrayal. Chapter 6. The trap is set. The design firm's office in downtown Denver gleamed with professional promise. Clara smoothed her designer's suit, one of her last remaining pieces from better days, and studied the company letterhead, Williams and Associates Interior Design. Ms. Manning? The receptionist smiled warmly. Mr. Williams will see you now. Clara's heart raced. Could this be Ben's company? But the man who greeted her in the executive suite wasn't Ben or Cole. He was older, silver-haired, immaculately dressed. Clara Manning, your portfolio is impressive. He gestured to a chair. We've been following your work for years. Really? Clara fought to hide her disappointment. I mean, thank you. Recent personal issues aside, your talent is undeniable. We'd like to offer you a position as our head designer. Salary is $300,000 annually, plus commission. Clara's hands trembled. This was her chance. Redemption, restoration, revenge against Ben. When can I start? Across town, James sat in another office, receiving a similar offer. The accounting firm seemed legitimate, the salary generous. His experience with creative, neither suspected the truth. Both companies were elaborate facades, created by Mike Zhang's technical wizardry and funded by Ben's liquidated assets. Each office was staffed by actors, local talent hired through Hank's connections. Every interaction scripted to draw Clara and James deeper into Ben's trap. In his ranch house command center, Ben watched multiple screens showing security feeds from both offices. Sarah's tiny cameras captured every angle, while Mike's software recorded every electronic communication. They took the bait, Mike reported via secured line. Clara's already planning to poach her old clients. James is accessing the compromised accounting systems. Perfect. Ben's fingers drummed against his desk. Start the whisper campaign. Make sure their local contacts know about their good fortune. The next phase began immediately. Anonymous tips reached Clara and James's old clients, hinting at financial misconduct. Carefully crafted evidence suggested both were using their new positions to defraud investors. Every move they made dug them deeper into a hole they didn't even know existed. Meanwhile, Ben's attention turned to the children. Their trust fund accounts, supposedly drained, had actually been transferred into hidden holdings. Now they received anonymous messages. Their estranged father might be willing to reconcile, but only on his terms. Dad. Ethan's voicemail played through Ben's speakers. I mean, if this is really you, we're struggling. Maya's had to leave school. Noah's in trouble, please. We'll do anything. Ben's laugh held no warmth as he typed a response. Anything? We'll see. Come to Colorado. Learn what real work means. The trap was multi-layered, designed to break each family member differently. Clara would taste professional success again, only to have it turn to ash. James would think he'd found financial salvation, only to face criminal charges. The children would learn harsh lessons about privilege and consequences. Ben's friends watched his transformation with mixed admiration and concern. You're not the same man who arrived here, Hank observed during one of their evening strategy sessions. That man was weak, Ben replied, cleaning one of the hunting rifles he'd learned to use. He trusted too easily, loved too blindly. In this new version? Hank gestured at the surveillance screens, the elaborate web of deception. What does he believe in? Justice. Ben checked the rifle's sight. The kind the law can't provide. Tommy, arriving for their daily training session, found Ben practicing hand-to-hand combat moves in the barn turn gym. Your technique has improved, Tommy noted, dodging a precise strike. But you're still pulling your punches. Not for long. Ben's next hit landed hard enough to make Tommy grunt. They're coming here? All of them. I need to be ready. The physical training complemented Ben's psychological warfare. Each day brought new developments. Clara's design projects mysteriously failing inspection, James's clients reporting irregularities, the children discovering that mountain ranch work required muscles they'd never developed. In town, the locals played their parts perfectly. Hank's friends in law enforcement kept Ben, known to them as Cole, informed of any inquiries about him. Shop owners and ranchers reported any strangers asking questions. Ben's web extended beyond Colorado. Mike's cyber surveillance tracked Clara's desperate attempts to secure loans, James's increasingly panicked financial maneuvers, the children's social media complaints about their fallen status. They're breaking, Sarah reported after another surveillance sweep. Clara's drinking more heavily. James is making mistakes in his work. The kids are fighting among themselves constantly. Ethan blames Maya for revealing too much at the graduation party. Maya accuses Noah of not keeping their secrets. They're all terrified of what you might do next. Good. Ben switched off the surveillance feeds. Fear is an excellent teacher. His phone buzzed with an update from Mike. The fake design company's project deadline approached. A multi-million-dollar renovation Clara had desperately thrown herself into. She'd pulled multiple all-nighters, believing this would be her comeback triumph. Everything's in place, Mike reported. When she presents to the clients next week, we'll spring the trap. All her design choices violate building codes, thanks to our altered documentation. The budget numbers will show massive overruns, courtesy of James's creative accounting. Ben nodded, satisfaction coursing through him. Make sure the licensing board receives anonymous evidence of fraud. I want her professional reputation destroyed beyond repair. He pulled up the ranch's work schedule. The children would arrive tomorrow. He'd prepared 3 Spartan cabins, bare of any luxuries. Their phones would have no signal here. No internet. No escape. Your methods are brutal, Tommy observed, helping Ben check the security perimeter. They deserve it, but this level of revenge, it changes a man? I'm counting on that. Ben's voice was cold. The weak, trusting fool they betrayed is dead. I want them to understand exactly what they've created in his place. The sun set behind the Colorado mountains as Ben reviewed his plans one final time. In Denver, Clara prepared for her doomed presentation. James sweated over fraudulent accounts that would soon destroy him, and his children packed for what they thought was a chance at reconciliation, unaware they were walking into their own carefully designed punishment. Phase 2 was nearly complete. Soon, very soon, they would all understand the true cost of betrayal. Chapter 7. The Descent. The gleaming office of Williams & Associates Interior Design buzzed with anticipation. Clara Manning straightened her designer blazer, a relic from better days, and reviewed her presentation one final time. The multi-million-dollar renovation project would be her redemption, her chance to rebuild everything she'd lost. The clients are ready, Ms. Manning, her assistant announced. Clara gathered her materials, hand steady despite the bottle of wine she consumed the night before. The past months had been a study in contrasts, professional triumph against personal ruin. The salary was magnificent, but something about it nagged at her. The company's owner remained mysteriously absent, communicating only through intermediaries. In the conference room, 5 stern-faced executives waited. Clara launched into her presentation with practiced charm, the mask she'd worn for 20 years firmly in place. As you can see, the design incorporates both modern aesthetics and practical functionality. Ms. Manning, the lead executive, cut her off. Can you explain these building code violations? Clara blinked. I'm sorry. He slid a document across the table. Our review shows 17 major code violations in your plans. The budget numbers don't match our records. Care to explain the discrepancies? There must be some mistake. Clara's voice wavered as she scanned the report. These are my numbers. No, they're mine. James Chin stood in the doorway, his face ashen. Clara, we need to talk. Now. In his temporary office across town, James had just discovered his own nightmare. The accounting software he'd been using had left a trail of fraudulent transactions, all traced back to his login credentials. Client funds had been misappropriated, tax documents falsified. I don't understand, he muttered, staring at his screen. These transactions, I never authorized. His phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Enjoying your new position, James? You should have stuck to stealing from just me. Across town, in 3 sparse cabins on Ben's ranch, his children were learning their own harsh lessons. Ethan's muscles screamed as he hauled another load of rocks. Maya's designer clothes were caked with mud from digging fence post holes. Noah's video game soft hands had developed blisters from endless ranch work. This is slave labor, Ethan spat, dropping the wheelbarrow. We're his children, for God's sake. No, we're not. Maya wiped sweat from her face. Remember? James is our father. We made that pretty clear at the party. Shut up. Noah hurled his shovel down. This is all your fault, if you hadn't been bragging about it. My fault? Maya advanced on her brother. Who was it that started calling Ben the walking ATM behind his back? Who convinced Mom to tell us the truth about James? Their argument was interrupted by a ranch hand, one of Ben's loyal associates in disguise. Back to work. Mr. Williams doesn't tolerate slacking. In his command center, Ben watched the simultaneous collapse of his family's carefully constructed lives. Sarah's surveillance feed showed Clara's presentation imploding, James discovering his apparent crimes, the children turning on each other. "You've orchestrated quite a show," Hank observed, reviewing the footage. "Clara's professional reputation is destroyed. James is facing criminal charges. The kids are breaking. They're learning." Ben's voice held no emotion. "Actions have consequences. Betrayal has a price." His phone lit up with desperate messages. "Clara, Ben, please. They're saying I'll lose my license. James says there's evidence of fraud. James, the FBI is investigating the accounts. You have to help me. Ethan, Dad, we're sorry. We'll do anything. Just make this stop." Ben read each message with cold satisfaction. Phase 1 had broken them financially. Phase 2 had destroyed their professional lives. Now came Phase 3, the complete dismantling of their carefully constructed self-images. "Send the files," he instructed Mike. "Make sure every client, friend, and associate sees the evidence." Within hours, Clara's other affairs became public knowledge. James's history of financial manipulation emerged. The children's social media posts mocking their fake father surfaced. Ben watched through the security cameras as his family's world burned. Tomorrow, he would summon them all to the ranch for the final confrontation. But tonight, he allowed himself a moment to appreciate how far he'd come from the trusting fool they'd betrayed. The man who'd grilled burgers at his son's graduation party was dead. In his place stood someone harder, colder, someone his family had created through their own cruelty. Tomorrow, they would meet that creation face to face. Chapter 8. The Confrontation. The morning dawned bright and clear as Ben surveyed his property from the porch. Hank's truck kicked up dust on the drive, followed by several other vehicles. The town had turned out for the show. "Quite a crowd," Hank commented, joining Ben. "Word got around about your invitation." "Good." Ben checked his watch. "They should be here soon." Right on cue, Clara's BMW appeared, followed by James's sedan. The children trudged down from their cabins, looking beaten and exhausted from weeks of hard labor. "Showtime," Ben murmured. Clara emerged from her car first, her designer outfit a sharp contrast to her haggard face. James stumbled out behind her, his usual smooth confidence replaced by barely concealed panic. "You bastard!" Clara's voice cracked across the yard. "You did this. You set us up." Ben didn't move from his position on the porch. "Did what exactly? Expose your affairs? Reveal James's financial crimes? Show the world who you really are? Those accounts were falsified." James protested. "Someone planted evidence, like you planted evidence of my supposed financial mismanagement." Ben's voice cut through James's excuses. "Like you manipulated records to hide Clara's spending? Your skills finally caught up with you, old friend." The children approached, Maya supporting a limping Ethan while Noah trailed behind. "Dad," Maya began. "I'm not your father." Ben's words froze them in place. "You made that very clear, remember? James gave us better genes. Those were your words, weren't they?" "We were wrong." Ethan's voice shook. "We're sorry. Sorry you got caught." Ben descended the porch steps. "Sorry your comfortable lives collapsed. Sorry your actions finally had consequences." The gathered townspeople watched in silence as Ben approached his former family. These people had heard pieces of his story over the months, had played their parts in his revenge. Now they witnessed the culmination. "Clara," he turned to his ex-wife, "you thought I was beneath you. A boring teacher who funded your lifestyle while you fucked your way through the social circle. How's that working out for you now?" Clara's face crumpled. "Ben, please. We can fix this." "Fix what? Your reputation? Your career? The 7 different affairs I've exposed." He laughed coldly. "You can't fix betrayal, Clara. You can only pay for it." He turned to James. "My friend, my business partner, the man who helped me invest for my children's future. Your children, I should say. Did you enjoy watching me work multiple jobs to pay for their education? Did you laugh about it in bed with my wife?" "Ben," James stepped forward, hands raised. "The police are investigating those accounts. If you don't help me, you'll what?" Ben's smile was razor-sharp. Tell them how you've been embezzling from clients for years? How you helped Clara hide her spending? I have proof of everything, James. Everything. Finally, he faced his children. You three. I gave you everything. Private school, expensive hobbies, college funds. And how did you repay me? With contempt, with mockery, with betrayal. We didn't know better. Noah protested weakly. Didn't you? You knew I wasn't your biological father. You knew Clara and James were laughing at me. You chose to join in, to treat me like your personal bank while sneering behind my back. The gathered crowd murmured as Ben outlined each betrayal, each cruel joke, each moment of disrespect. His voice never raised, but his words cut like knives. So here we are. Ben spread his arms, indicating the ranch, the town, his new life. The boring teacher you all despised has outmaneuvered you. The weak man you betrayed has destroyed you. The fool you laughed at has brought you to your knees. What do you want? Clara whispered. Want? Ben's laugh held no humor. I want you to understand consequences. I want you to feel what I felt. I want you to know what it's like to have your entire life revealed as a lie. He pulled out his phone, pressed a button. Around the gathered crowd, phones buzzed with new notifications. I've just released everything. All the evidence, all the recordings, all the proof of your betrayals and crimes. By tonight, everyone you know will see who you really are. Clara collapsed, sobbing. James staggered back as if struck. The children huddled together, their faces masks of horror. Get off my property, Ben commanded. Go back to the wreckage of your lives. Remember this moment. Remember that you created this, not me. You turned a good man into your worst nightmare. As his former family stumbled away, broken and humiliated, Ben turned to address the gathered townspeople. Thank you all for your help these past months. The show is over. The crowd dispersed, leaving Ben alone with Hank on the porch. Was it worth it? The old sheriff asked. Ben watched the dust settle on the drive where his family had disappeared. Ask me again in a year. Chapter 9. The Phoenix Rises. 1 year later, Ben stood in his renovated ranch house, studying the latest report from Sarah. His revenge had rippled outward, destroying not just his family's lives, but their entire social world. Clara had left town after losing her design license. She worked retail now, her glamorous lifestyle replaced by a small apartment and mounting legal bills. Her attempts to date had failed as each potential partner discovered her history of infidelity. James faced federal charges for financial crimes. Ben's evidence had exposed not just his affair with Clara, but years of fraudulent practices. His comfortable life had dissolved into a maze of legal proceedings and potential prison time. The children struggled in different ways. Ethan worked construction, his dreams of university replaced by manual labor. Maya lived with roommates, working as a waitress. Noah had moved in with James's parents, the only family members willing to take him in. Still no regrets? Mike asked, downloading the latest surveillance data. They're thoroughly destroyed. They destroyed themselves, Ben replied. I just made sure they couldn't hide from it anymore. He'd changed too. The ranch had prospered under his management. His new identity as Cole Williams had taken root, respected in the community for his business acumen and straight dealing. The physical training with Tommy had transformed him from a soft teacher into a hardened rancher. Your investments have tripled, Mike noted, reviewing the accounts. The tech startups are taking off. Real estate holdings are solid. You're wealthier now than you ever were before. Money was never the point. Ben moved to the window, surveying his property. They needed to learn that actions have consequences. That betrayal carries a price. His phone buzzed, a message from Maya. Dad, please. We've learned our lesson. We miss you. Ben deleted it without responding. The wounds had scarred over, but they'd never heal completely. His family had taught him that trust, once broken, couldn't be repaired. Hank's truck appeared on the drive, kicking up dust. The old sheriff had become a true friend, one of the few people who knew Ben's whole story. Got news, Hank announced, settling into a chair. Clara's trying to rebuild her business in another state. James is planning to plead guilty in exchange for a reduced sentence. And the kids are talking about moving away, starting fresh somewhere their past can't follow them. Hank studied his friend. You've won, Ben. They're broken, humbled, destroyed. Maybe it's time to let go. Ben's laugh held no warmth. Let go? They spent 20 years laughing at me, treating me with contempt, taking everything I gave them while mocking me behind my back. They're learning what it means to struggle, to work, to face consequences. He pulled up the latest surveillance photos on his tablet. Clara working a retail shift, her designer clothes replaced by a store uniform. James meeting with lawyers, his confident smile replaced by desperate fear. The children working menial jobs, their privileged upbringing useless in the real world. This isn't just revenge, Ben continued. It's justice. They're finally experiencing what I did, working hard, sacrificing, struggling to survive. The difference is I did it for them. They're doing it because they destroyed everything they had. Hank nodded slowly. And you? What's next for Cole Williams? Ben gestured at his rebuilt ranch, his prospering business ventures, his new life. I'm not the man they betrayed anymore. That weak, trusting fool died at his son's graduation party. They created something harder, colder, stronger. He turned to his friend. I won't waste time hating them anymore. I won't actively work to destroy them. They've done that to themselves. But I'll never forget, and I'll never forgive. That's my gift to them. The knowledge that their actions transformed a good man into someone capable of destroying them completely. The sun set behind the mountains as Ben reviewed his new empire. He'd emerged from betrayal stronger, wiser, more powerful. His former family had taught him the true meaning of loyalty by showing him its opposite. They'd taught him strength by exploiting his weakness. They taught him ruthlessness by abusing his kindness. He was no longer the victim of their betrayal. He was its consequence. Epilogue. 10 years later, the Williams Ranch sprawled across the Colorado landscape, a far cry from the rundown property Ben had purchased a decade ago. Now it encompassed thousands of acres, with multiple buildings, state-of-the-art facilities, and a reputation as one of the most successful agricultural and tech innovation centers in the state. Ben, still known to everyone as Cole Williams, sat in his office reviewing quarterly reports. At 55, his body remained hard from years of physical work, his beard now streaked with gray. The past decade had transformed him from a vengeful ex-husband into a respected business leader, though the cold calculation that had driven his revenge never fully disappeared. Mr. Williams? His assistant's voice came through the intercom. Sarah Chun is here for your monthly briefing. Send her in. Sarah, his former private investigator turned head of security, had aged well. She'd parlayed her role in Ben's revenge into a successful corporate security consulting business, with the Williams Ranch as her primary client. Updates on all targets, she announced, settling into a chair. She never referred to Ben's former family by name, a habit formed during the years of surveillance. Proceed. Ben turned from his computer, giving her his full attention. Clara first, still living in Phoenix. The drinking got worse after her third failed attempt to restart her design business. She's working at a furniture store, assistant manager now, but that's likely her ceiling. 2 failed relationships in the past year. Both ended when the men discovered her. Ben nodded, face impassive. James, released from federal prison last month after serving 7 years. The reduced sentence for cooperation didn't help his reputation. He's living in a halfway house trying to rebuild some kind of life. No one will hire him for financial work, obviously. He's working as a night janitor at a local high school. The children? Sarah pulled up her tablet. Ethan finally finished his degree, community college, night classes while working construction. He's a junior project manager now. Married, 1 kid. His wife knows the whole story. It almost broke them up, but they worked through it. He's the only one who's managed any real stability. She scrolled down. Maya's still in California. Went through rehab last year, pills and alcohol. She's working as a receptionist at a small interior design firm. Ironic. She doesn't handle client accounts, though. Just answers phones. No serious relationships. And Noah, most trouble to the 3. 2 DUI arrests. Lost his job at James's parents' company for stealing. Currently unemployed, living with a girlfriend who's supporting him. He's been trying to write a book about his life. Claims he was the victim of psychological abuse by his adoptive father. No publishers are interested. Ben absorbed the information without visible reaction. A decade of reports had detailed his family's descent. Each attempt to rebuild, each new failure, each consequence of their betrayal compounding over time. Your friends have done well for themselves, Sarah continued, knowing Ben preferred comprehensive updates. Mike Zhang's cybersecurity firm is now valued at over $1 billion. Tommy Chen's martial arts schools have franchised nationwide. Hank Morrison passed away last year, but his son's doing great work as the new sheriff. And the ranch? Your cover identity is rock solid. Cole Williams is now more real than Ben Manning ever was. The community respects you. The business is thriving. You've won by any measure. Ben stood, walking to the window that overlooked his domain. The ranch had grown beyond his initial revenge scheme into something genuinely meaningful. His agricultural technology innovations helped farmers across the country. The research center he'd built attracted top scientists. He employed hundreds of people, funded scholarships, contributed to the community. They tried to contact you last month, Sarah said quietly. All of them. It was the anniversary of the graduation party. Ben's laugh held no humor. Still hoping for redemption? Clara claimed she's changed. James wrote a long letter about atonement. The kids, they say they understand now. Want to make amends? And what do you think? Ben turned to his old friend. You've watched them as long as I have. Sarah considered carefully. Clara's desperation is financial. She's getting older, can't live on retail wages forever. James is genuinely broken, but prison will do that. The kids. She paused. Ethan might be sincere. The others just want what you have. Ben nodded. He'd read their messages, analyzed their motives, just as he had every other attempt at contact over the years. The cold rage that had driven his revenge had mellowed into something harder, more permanent, a complete dismissal of their existence. Have you ever regretted it? Sarah asked. The completeness of your revenge? They made their choices, Ben replied. 20 years of lies. 20 years of mockery. 20 years of treating loyalty and love as weaknesses to be exploited. He turned back to the window. I gave them exactly what they deserved, the consequences of their own actions. A knock at the door interrupted them. Tommy Chen entered, now the ranch's head of security training. Sorry to interrupt, but the new agricultural tech prototype is ready for review. Ben nodded. We'll continue this later, Sarah. Send me the full report. As his friends left, Ben reviewed the photos on his tablet one last time. Clara serving customers at the furniture store, her designer clothes replaced by practical wear, her face lined with bitterness. James in his janitor's uniform, head down, avoiding eye contact with the teachers. His children in their diminished lives. Ethan building something small but stable. Maya and Noah still flailing. He closed the tablet. Their fates were no longer his concern. They taught him valuable lessons about trust, loyalty, and consequences. He'd applied those lessons to build something greater than revenge, a new life, a thriving business, a lasting legacy. The afternoon sun caught the ranch's solar panels, a testament to his investment in sustainable technology. In the distance, automated farming equipment moved through experimental crop fields. Teams of researchers and engineers walked between buildings, developing innovations that would help feed the world. His phone buzzed, another message from Clara. Ben, please. We've all suffered enough. Can't we try to heal as a family? He deleted it without reading further. The man they'd betrayed was long dead, transformed by their actions into someone stronger, colder, more successful than they could have imagined. Their punishment wasn't just the loss of wealth and status. It was knowing that their cruelty had created their own destruction. A video call notification popped up, the governor wanting to discuss expanding the ranch's agricultural programs statewide. Ben straightened his jacket and accepted the call. Cole Williams had meetings to attend, projects to oversee, an empire to run. Ben Manning's past was just that past. His revenge had been perfect not because he'd actively destroyed his family, but because he'd forced them to face the truth about themselves. They'd learned what it meant to struggle, to work, to face consequences. They'd learn about loyalty by losing everything they'd gained through betrayal. Most importantly, They learned that the quiet, unassuming teacher they'd mocked had become someone far beyond their reach, successful, powerful, and completely indifferent to their existence. The sun set behind the mountains as Ben reviewed plans for the ranch's next expansion. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new opportunities, new chances to build on the foundation he'd created from the ashes of betrayal. His former family would continue their diminished lives, carrying the weight of their choices, while he soared higher with each passing year. They created this version of him through their betrayal. Living with that knowledge was the perfect punishment. Legacy. 20 years after the graduation party that changed everything, a journalist visited the Williams Ranch to profile its reclusive owner. The resulting article painted a picture that would have been unrecognizable to Ben Manning's former family. Cole Williams defies easy categorization. His agricultural technology innovations have revolutionized farming across 3 continents. His sustainability initiatives have made him a leader in combating climate change. His charitable foundation provides scholarships to hundreds of students annually. Yet he remains intensely private, known to the community as a fair but demanding employer, a generous but unsentimental philanthropist, and a man who values loyalty above all else. The article never mentioned his past, that history was buried too deep for any reporter to uncover. But his former family read it, as they read everything about the mysterious Cole Williams. They saw their own role in creating him, though they'd never understand the full scope of their impact. Clara, now in her 60s, kept the article in her small apartment. Sometimes, after too many drinks, she'd tell younger colleagues about her ex-husband, though few believed her stories about the wealthy rancher. Her attempts to rebuild her design career had long since failed, leaving her with retail, work, and regrets. James read it in prison during his final year, the paper crumpling in his shaking hands. His cellmate thought he was crying about the lost opportunity, a wealthy rancher who could have been a client. Only James knew he was crying about the friend he'd betrayed, the man whose trust he'd abused, the life he'd thrown away. The children had different reactions. Ethan showed it to his wife and daughter, trying to explain something about consequences and redemption. Maya ignored it, too focused on staying sober to deal with the past. Noah tried to use it as proof of his father's psychological manipulation, but his girlfriend just rolled her eyes at another of his excuses. Ben kept a copy too, though he never displayed it. It served as a reminder, not of his revenge, but of what he'd built from it. The quiet teacher had died, but something stronger had emerged from that betrayal. His former family had thought him weak, had treated his loyalty as something to exploit. They created their own destiny in doing so. The Williams Ranch stood as a testament to transformation, not just of land or technology or business, but of a man. Ben Manning had been a caterpillar, naive and trusting. His family's betrayal had forced him into a cocoon of revenge and reinvention. Cole Williams was the butterfly that emerged, powerful, successful, and completely beyond their reach. Traditional wisdom said living well was the best revenge. Ben had proven that living extraordinarily well, while ensuring your betrayers witnessed their own role in your transformation, was even better. The story could have ended differently. He could have remained bitter, focused solely on revenge. Instead, he channeled that cold rage into creation, building something meaningful while letting his former family destroy themselves through their own choices. That was his true legacy. Not the revenge that had driven him initially, but the empire he'd built from its ashes. Not the destruction of his betrayers, but the complete indifference to their existence that true success had granted him. The man who had grilled burgers at his son's graduation party would never have recognized the titan of industry he'd become. But then, that man had died the moment he heard his wife's cruel words. What emerged was something his family had never expected, a force of nature they created through their own betrayal. That was the final irony. In trying to exploit what they saw as weakness, they'd forged something immeasurably stronger. In betraying his trust, they taught him to build something greater than revenge. Cole Williams was their creation. Living with that knowledge was their